Continuing now with the Obama interview you just saw, joining us now to analyze, Clarence Page in D.C. He is a columnist for the Chicago Trib, and a radio talk show star, Tammy Bruce in Los Angeles. Clarence, I'm going to be in with you because you're a Chicago guy, and you know all about the associations. Was I fair to the senator there with those fair questions?
Well, I just want to correct two things. One, Bill Ayers wasn't quoted as saying that we didn't do enough bombing. He said, I don't think we did enough, quote unquote. And the way it was reported, it sounded like he said we didn't do enough bombing. He says what he meant was that we didn't do enough protesting of the wall.
Clarence, so he never said he was sorry for the bombing, and he's never been repentant at all. So that's a little picayune thing. Go ahead. The second one?
Number two, it wasn't last week. It was in 2001, in September of 2001.
No, he was quoted very recently. Somebody caught up to him, Clarence, and said, do you regret any of that? And he said no, and his wife said no, too. Now, was the questioning fair?
Well, I want to be able to see that quote because he himself says that it was a protest. But anyway, as far as the questioning goes, I think it was fair. I think that this is all part of the usual questions that are raised around Barack Obama, part of the trope that we don't know him well enough. Nobody asks about the fundraiser that Gordon Liddy held for John McCain because we all feel like we know him well enough, I guess. But you know, I'm glad you aired things out.
Okay, so the questioning was fine. The association, I think, is very, particularly to independent voters, important. And when you start to, you know, ratchet them up, Tammy, when you keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to me, I was asking more as an American than as a journalist because it does look like Barack Obama's comfortable in those far left precincts, those precincts that frighten a lot of people.
Well, you know, here's the issue, and I think maybe Clarence was being a little sarcastic at the end there. The truth is we do know a lot about Barack Obama. The question is, what do we know about him? It's that what we know we don't like. And that's got to be the biggest campaign bus in history with monster tires, with all the people now that have been thrown underneath it. Jeremiah Wright clearly, historically, has played a monumental role in that man's life for over 20 years. Bill Ayers has done as well. I think what Barack Obama was trying to do with you, Bill, is recast it for the people who are beginning to watch this campaign as not a big deal. The problem is there is the internet and now other methods of communication, including talk radio, which will remind people of the history of those relationships, which are significant and which do speak to judgment and character. And I think that's his biggest weakness.
But you know what? I'm going to stick up for Obama here. I don't think Obama himself thinks it's a big deal, Tammy. I think that he says, well, I don't know if that's a problem for you, but I don't know if that's a problem for him because he had to build himself up as a political figure in a tough town, a town dominated by far-left kooks that have to kowtow to the daily machine. And these people that he associated with are all part of that. So Obama says, look, I'm not like them. I had to deal with them because they were there. Go ahead, Clarence.
That's a mischaracterization of Chicago. Let's be fair to the people and to the history. You know, Bill Ayers and his wife Bernadine Dorn were Weather Underground folks 40 years ago when they committed those acts of violence. They came up from underground, turned themselves in the early 80s. They've been model citizens since. Bill Clinton commuted their sentences. Bill Ayers is an expert on education reform and on juvenile justice. Bernadine Dorn's a juvenile justice expert. Mayor Daley, Richard II, our current Mayor Daley, has worked with Bill Ayers on school reform.
I know, but he's a far-left guy.
This is McCarthyism. You talk about far-left, Bill. That's your right, but I think that Fox News is far-right, and you cast everybody else as being far-left.
You think Fox News is far-right, but the majority of Americans disagree with you. I will submit to you, Clarence, a majority of Americans agree with me.
You're wrong, but you're entitled to believe that if you want to.
If you're going to stand there and you're going to say a former Weather Underground unrepentant bomber, okay, is on the equivalent on the left, that far news is on the equivalent on the right, then you're going to lose that argument all day long, Clarence, and you're smarter
I'll judge him by his actions.
I'll
judge him by his actions, Bill, and his actions have been those of a model citizen for the last 20 years.
That's your opinion.
He's an intellectual.
But
he's got controversial views, but
one more question
but that's why we're here, isn't it?
I'm going to give you one more question and let Tammy wrap it up. I think that the association with the Daily Kos, a hateful website in play every day, this is a website, I'll remind you again, that put out the stuff about the Down syndrome baby, the Palin baby, being birthed by the 15-year-old with no evidence. his going to that convention, and I scolded all the Democrats who did, very disturbing to me as an American, Clarence, and it should disturb you, sir.
I don't agree with what they did either, Bill, but it did smoke out the real story about the Palin family, love it or hate it. But the fact is that the internet is a wild frontier. You know, if you want to go regulate it, go ahead.
I'm not regulating anything. You choose who you hang with, Clarence. Tammy, I'm going to give you the last word.
I think Americans really reject the idea that if the longest period of time that can go by since you bombed something makes that bombing irrelevant, and most people would reject a friendship with an individual like that and explain it as though since it happened so long ago it doesn't matter anymore. Those are specious arguments. Americans are rejecting them, and that's why the Republicans are going to win in November and the Democrats are in the process of losing another one because of issues like this.
All right. Very lively debate. You're both very good, and we appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.